Hello, greetings, my friend. I am Dr. Mari, and welcome to the Goddess Breath YouTube channel. We are working on the Breathwork and Embodied Consciousness series. And last episode, the first episode of this series, we explored the idea that perhaps nothing is wrong with you. Perhaps the anxiety, restlessness, longing, or dissatisfaction is not evidence that you're broken. Perhaps it is evidence that something deeper is trying to emerge. So today, I'd like to explore with you what many spiritual traditions, mythological stories from ancient times, even going way back, and what depth psychologists refer to as the call, hearing the call. So, have you ever had a feeling that something in your life wasn't working? Maybe it was a relationship, a career, a belief system, maybe a habit that's no longer serving you, or just a way of seeing yourself, your identity. Or perhaps nothing was outwardly wrong at all, but life looked fine on the surface, yet something inside you is restless. And you are asking yourself questions you had never asked before. Is this all there is? What am I really here for? Why do I feel disconnected? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? Why do I know what I need to do, yet somehow I can't seem to do it? These questions are often the beginning of what I call the call, hearing the call. The call rarely arrives looking spiritual. I can guarantee that. It often arrives disguised as disruption. A divorce, it could look like a loss, betrayal, maybe even a medical diagnosis. It could be burnout from your career, a midlife transition. That's a very common one that people hear the call, and midlife crisis, midlife transition. Or sometimes a powerful longing can emerge for something that we yet cannot even name. And the ego usually experiences these moments as problems. But from a deeper perspective, they can be viewed as invitations, invitations to become more fully ourselves. So, Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychologist, believed that much of our suffering comes from living too far away from our authentic self. He suggested that beneath the personality we have constructed to survive and belong is a deeper self-seeking expression. He called the journey toward that deeper self individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who we truly are. The call is often the first sign that the individuation process has begun. Joseph Campbell observed something similar in mythology. He referred to it as the monomyth, and that's a diagram that is available online, monomyth, monomyth. So I'm kind of overlapping these two. I do this in my Power of Myth and Archetype course as well. That's going to be available in November. But whether we look at these ancient stories, religious traditions, modern films, the journey is often the same beginning. An ordinary life is interrupted. A messenger arrives and a challenge appears. a threshold emerges. The hero or heroine is invited into a larger life. And almost always the first response is resistance, met with resistance. What? Do that? What are they saying to me? Why am I going through this? All these questions come up, and answering the call means usually leaving something familiar behind, coming out of your comfort zone. It means stepping into uncertainty. It means becoming willing to discover who we are beyond the roles we have been playing. One of the myths that has deeply influenced my own life, if you've been following me on the YouTube channel, the Goddess Breath YouTube channel, which is the Goddess Breath YouTube channel, that name because of this goddess that I became connected to back 20 some years ago in my holotropic breathwork experience. She influenced me based on the connection I had through my holotropic breathwork experience, but then I learned more about her story. And I've written 2 books on her story and my dissertation, why I did research for my PhD, and so on. But many people now know of Inanna because of her famous descent into the underworld. But what is often overlooked is that before her descent, she receives another kind of call. She journeys to visit her father, who is the god of wisdom, Enki, E-N-K-I, Enki. And so she travels to Eridu, his city, this is Mesopotamia, but this is now kind of like modern day Iraq area, Turkey, Iraq. And Enki is the keeper of sacred knowledge. There, when she arrives at his city, she receives the the gifts and powers of civilization. There's a long story there where he grants her the Holy May based on a big festival, ritual celebration, and then he says, I think you're worthy of receiving the May. And this May is considered knowledge of humanity, authority, skill, creativity, culture, the arts, the 9 arts, like the 9 muses, all the different types of arts, and power. So psychologically, this reflects a stage of life many of us know well. And we are building ourselves. We pursue education. We go into our career. We establish relationships, even often marry. We are going to have children. We want recognition. We're looking for achievement. We are answering the call to become someone in the world. What is our role that we will play? And we can wear many different roles, hats, I want to say. We can play many different roles and wear different hats. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong at all. In fact, it's necessary. It helps us develop strength, competence, identity. Yet eventually another call may arise. A deeper one, a more comfortable one, more not comfortable, uncomfortable experience of journeying to a place that doesn't feel inviting. And for Inanna, the goddess Inanna, queen of heaven and earth of the Sumerian culture, she turns towards the underworld and toward her sister, Ereshkigal. So she hears this call to journey to the underworld, and she follows. Notice how different the second journey is compared to the first one. So the first is saying, what can I gain what can I bring in? The second is asking, what can I surrender? What can I let go of? This is where individuation becomes real, not through achievement, through transformation, not through acquiring, not uh, through um, looking for some aspect of being seen. It's more through releasing what no longer serves you. And many people encounter this call in midlife. Perhaps they've achieved much of what they set out to accomplish, but yet something still feels incomplete. And the career may seemingly appear successful, and the family may be established, and everybody is in harmony and there's flow. Everybody's doing their dance, so to speak. Yet still, a person can feel that a deeper longing is calling them. And it's important to recognize that this longing is not a recognition of failure or even any aspect in consideration of that word. It's more observed, especially by Carl Jung, as the first half of life that we can see builds the ego, but then the second half is about self-discovery, discovering ourselves. So that's where we're leaning here in this particular episode. And we can ask ourselves questions like, who am I beneath my accomplishment? Who am I beyond my roles? What parts of myself have I neglected? What gifts remain hidden in the shadows that haven't been brought to the surface to recognize how valuable they are? And what wants to emerge now? These are questions of individuation. And they are questions of conscious participation in the evolution of humankind. Because every human being receives a call. The question is whether we listen, do we follow through, do we act? Many people hear a call and for years they resist it. I can't do that. That's going to make me look like woo-woo or something. Because there's some belief system maybe that has to change, or some identity of yourself that is transforming. And therefore, then we go on and we distract ourselves, we stay busy, we numb ourselves, right? Self-medicating. We convince ourselves that things will improve if we simply work harder or achieve more. Yet the call remains. Waiting, inviting, whispering. I believe that conscious evolution begins the moment we stop asking, why is this happening to me? And instead we ask, what is trying to emerge through me? That single shift, reframing that question, changes everything. Instead of becoming victims of our circumstances, we become participants in our own transformation. How exciting is that? It doesn't feel exciting in the moment, but when you think of it that way, we become participants in our own transformation. It's very exciting. Instead of fighting the process, we become conscious and curious about it. Instead of avoiding the threshold, we begin to approach it more mindfully. The call is not the problem. It's only just the beginning of the journey. Just the very beginning. And as we continue this series, we will explore more about Inanna's myth and how her descent into the journey of the underworld illuminates the path of transformation and what that can teach us about becoming more fully human in ourselves, more whole. Because we do not become more whole by escaping our humanity. We become more whole by inhabiting it more fully. And perhaps the invitation for each of us today is just simply to ask questions, to self inquire, to listen more, to wonder, what would that be like? So I'm going to invite you to do a little breathing practice with me. And this simple breathing, you know that I'm always about just being conscious of your breath more and more and more every day, because the breath opens our energy, it expands what is happening with areas that are either tense or blocked or what we can't see. And we'll talk more about that in the next episode. But for now, I just invite you to breathe with me. Breathe in through the double nostril. Blow out through the pursed lips. You're breathing in the flower. Blowing out the candle. Do that again. I'm breathing in the flower. Blowing out the candle. Ask yourself, what is calling you? Is there a longing that you continue to experience, but you don't have a name for it? Is there an inner truth, an inner knowing that you've been avoiding because you are afraid to cross the threshold and go into what that go into facing that, what that would bring? And staying with me with the breath. What part of yourself is waiting to be welcomed home? I invite you to sit with those questions now. And I'm just going to add a little bit to this breathing. Breathing in through the nose for a count of 4. We're going to hold for a count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blowing out through 8, pursed lips. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Breathing in through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling through for 8. 8. Breathing in. 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blowing out. One more. 4. Hold. 2, 3, 7. Blow out through 8. One last time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the way. Exhale all the way. Just sitting with your eyes closed, relaxed. Notice what arises as you ask yourself these questions. What truth have you been avoiding? What call keeps returning in your mind, in your ear, that you hear? but you've not been wanting to either listen or follow through. Notice what wants your attention more attention of you. And in our next episode, we'll begin crossing the threshold with Inanna as she prepares for her descent into the underworld. So thank you for joining me on this journey. And I hope you can check in for the next episode. That will be not so much about a focus on the shadow, but more about what is going to help you come home to yourself. And it's a process, my friend. It's a process. That's why these episodes will be in segments, because it's important to integrate this process. And another way of integrating these processes is through breathing, and most specifically through the holotropic breathwork, which holotropic is HOLO, whole tropic, moving toward wholeness. And I offer these workshops in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I reside. And if you feel called, you can check my website for the next event that's coming. So I thank you for joining again, and I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. Be well.